face of your new police state.
Welcome to the Charles Carroll Society. I am your host, the self-appointed Bard of the American Readout. Fourth generational warfare is complex. It uses all levers of power, from economic to media, to include some violence, to achieve a political end. While third generation conflict is mostly about resources, fourth generation warfare is mostly about ideas. I think what we are seeing in South Africa is what a possible fourth generational conflict could look like here in the US. And I believe that the patriots of the United States can learn from it, while we are also helping those who believe in Christianity and property rights in South Africa. Think on it like this. Think on it if the Democratic Socialists of America, playing the role of the EFF, dragging the institutional Democratic Party, dragging them further and further to the left. In South Africa, the Democratic Party in America would be the ANC in this analogy. It's an analogy. Think about the Black Lives Matter and Antifa forces being the criminal element that are going to work for the Democratic Socialists of America and the Democratic Party, like the criminals we see attacking landowners all over South Africa. And we'll get into it a little bit further, but there may be some international movement of Zimbabwean criminals across the border leading these vicious assaults. That would be more like MS-13 teaming up with Antifa and teaming up with the BLM to take the violence to an entirely another level. There are elements in South Africa who want to make this entire issue all about race, both black organizations and white organizations. In my opinion, that would be a mistake and potentially a lethal one. If you're going to win a war, you have to see the chessboard as it is, not as you want to see it. It is my opinion that this conflict in South Africa and also in the United States is much more complex than a bunch of black communists wanting to steal some of the land from so-called wealthy white farmers. This is what the forces who are applying fourth generational warfare want you to see. For example, in an article by news.com.au titled South African Farm Attacks, Blacks Also Living in Fear, dated 13 April 2018, they show that black farmers are also being victimized, not in the same numbers as white farmers. One reason is because they own less farmland, but this issue is landowners being attacked. First of all, it's not all blacks who want to savage the minority farm owners in South Africa. It's not even all the ANC who wants to do this, who are corrupt and selling out the country. I'm not going to try and pronounce these African names because you guys always laugh at me when I do, but I'll show some of them on the screen. These are mostly ANC political members, who blew the whistle on what they in South Africa call state capture, which we here in the United States call crony capitalism or simply just corruption. We would not even know the details about the Gupta corruption scandal if it were not for black ANC political members blowing the whistle. It's also not all whites who believe in Christianity and protecting the rule of law. We have seen white politicians in the United Kingdom and the IMF endorse land theft. Heck, Julius Malema, who appears to be very hostile to whites and apparently okay with fighting a race war down there and ethnically cleansing whites from South Africa, is guarded by a white-owned security firm. In warfare, it's often very common. We can kind of start separating these fourth generational players into blue, which is friendly, and red, which is the enemy. Thus, we would say the immediate opposition in South Africa seems to be the EFF and elements within the ANC. I don't have enough information myself about the Democratic Alliance, DA, to figure out where they sit in this battle. The DA, from America's perspective, is very liberal, supporting things like universal basic income. But they are also resolutely against land theft, it's taking land without compensation. Let's just say that they lean blue for our analysis. Why do most of these agents act? Well, apparently some are true believers in a pan-African black communist so-called state. Some see the incredible poverty of black, primarily Bantu South Africans, and want to do something about it. And of course, in their world, they want to do something right now. Others, I believe, act out of greed and wanting something they did not work for, while others appear to be motivated truly by racial hate. But when you start looking at the issue of South Africa and this issue, this is only the first layer of the onion. We apparently have some type of criminal elements in both South Africa and Zimbabwe who are doing the dirty work of attacking landowners in South Africa. There are some questions about the cell phone jammers which they're using, which I've written extensively about, and how they're getting them and how they're paying for them. We've found that they're being sold apparently below market costs from sites in China. The relationship of some of these criminal elements and the government is obviously murky, but most of it seem to accept that the crime that is happening against the racial minority group in South Africa is not normal crime. In America, it most likely would qualify at least as a hate crime, even though I hate the concept of hate crime. Murder's murder. These criminal groups appear to be operating mostly out of simply sociopathic, psychopathic thrill of rape and murder. However, they appear to be targeting one ethnicity. So thus you wonder if anyone is directing these thugs. But that is only the second layer of the onion. We keep seeing international players such as China and other powerful commercial interests, their fingerprints keep showing up on things. Who is going to control South African banks if the EFA gets its way and the states takes over all of them, nationalize all the banks? Who are going to control all the resources on the land of South Africa if the EFF and elements of the ANC get their way and they're nationalized? That's a lot of money. It is my opinion that the blue side also has some international allies. I believe that primarily the alternative media like Lauren Southern was essential in bringing the plight of the South African landowners to light. People like Starbird Disagrees, which I call the disagreeable bird, and Ronaldo. These guys have basically dedicated their entire YouTube channel to trying to get the word out about the plight of the racial minority in South Africa. And then, of course, the biggest quote unquote alternative media that raised this issue is Tucker Carlson of Fox News. Soon after Tucker Carlson talked about the plight of South African farmers, President Trump directed his Secretary of State to look into the South African issue. My point is, in making this video, is that the conflict in South Africa, like most fourth generational warfare, is much more complicated than simply some black communists trying to seize all the resources in the country. We should try to see and understand the battle space as it is, not as we may want to see it. See the future, know your fate. Viva Crystal Rey, Viva Crystal Rey, Viva Crystal Rey, y the Virgin of Guadalupe.